I'm not a superstitious person. I live in New Orleans, a city of rowdy bars, alleyways steeped in bloody history, and ghost stories that tourists laugh at. But there are nights when I wake up alone at 2 a.m., hearing footsteps on the roof, and I swear to everyone that something is watching me from above. My name is Marcus. 2 months ago, I moved into a small, old-fashioned house in the Faubourg Marigny, a neighborhood far enough from the tourist areas to be quiet, but close enough to Bourbon Street to feel alive. I rented the house from an older couple who were selling it for a surprisingly low price. Too low. That should have been the first warning sign. The first few nights were uneventful. I fixed up the kitchen, installed a sound system, and got used to the sound of the late-night streetcar. But then one night, as I lay on the sofa reading, I heard a scratching sound on the roof. It wasn't the wind, it wasn't the birds. It was the sound of claws, scratching, like something was trying to dig through the roof to get inside. I walked out into the backyard and shined my flashlight on the roof. Nothing. But as I turned to go back inside, I heard a low, hoarse, menacing growl. A growl that didn't belong to any animal I had ever heard. From then on, it became a habit. Every night at exactly 2:13 a.m., footsteps sounded on my roof. It came from the left corner, walked slowly to the chimney, and then stopped. Until one day I saw the black cat. It appeared on the balcony across the street, sitting still as a statue. Its fur was black as pitch. Its yellow eyes were like two amber beads glowing in the darkness. It looked at me, unblinking, unmoving, and I found myself unable to take my eyes off it. That night I had a dream. In the dream I was lying on the roof, unable to move, and the black cat was sitting on my chest, its claws digging into my flesh. It didn't meow, just looked at me with eyes as deep as black holes. Then it slowly transformed into something else, a tall, lanky creature with a cat's face and a human body, skin covered in black fur, long arms, claws as sharp as knives. I screamed, woke up in a cold sweat, and found a long scratch on my fingernail. I went to the window. The black cat was still there, but this time it was standing on my roof. The next morning, I woke up with a pounding headache. The night before seemed more than a nightmare because the scratch on my chest was still there. Clear, deep, and fresh. I stepped out onto the porch and looked up at the roof. There were no marks, no claws, no fur, no cat. But the neighbors were gathered outside. They were standing around something on the sidewalk in front of Ruth's house, an old woman who lived 2 doors down from me. I walked closer. In the middle of the circle was a mangled pit bull, its body slung across 2 steps, as if someone or something had thrown it from above. Its chest was hollowed out, its heart removed. But what sent a chill down my spine was its eyes had been gouged out and replaced with 2 small yellow stones. Cat's eyes. That night I installed a camera on the roof, some kind of infrared, a motion sensor. If the thing turned around, I would see it. I also searched online. Black cat demon, cat spirit, cat demon folklore. The results led me to a name, Bastien, a demon in the form of a cat that appears in ancient Creole legends of Louisiana. It usually appears as a black cat during the day, but at night it takes on the form of darkness, hunting, eating the hearts and souls of living creatures. A passage that took my breath away. It will sit on the roof of the victim's house for 3 consecutive nights. If it is not exorcised, on the 3rd night it will scratch through the roof and crawl in. Then there will be only blood. I looked at the clock, 1:57 a.m. The camera was still, no movement was detected. 1:59 a.m. I began to feel cold. Not the usual cold, but the cold that came from the bones. The hallway lights flickered. The house suddenly became eerily silent, as if the whole world was holding its breath. 2:13 a.m. The camera vibrated slightly. I held my breath, opened the live viewing app. And then I saw it. A black shadow was crawling slowly across my roof. Its body was like liquid, flowing instead of moving. Its eyes glowed yellow, staring straight into the lens as if it knew I was watching. I stared at the screen. Suddenly, it stopped, looked up, then growled. The sound from the phone gave me goosebumps, like the roar of hundreds of cats burning to death at once. It slithered toward the chimney, disappeared from the frame. Then a click sounded from the ceiling. I rushed to the closet and pulled out the baseball bat. My heart was pounding. I looked up at the ceiling and saw the shadow slowly emerging through the attic door. I screamed, turned on the flashlight, and shined it directly on it. Nothing. No one. Just a bunch of dust and cobwebs. But when I looked down at the floor, something made my legs stiffen. A wet paw print was clearly imprinted on the wooden floor. Small, like a cat's, but with 4 toes and long claws. The next morning, I took the video to Mr. Reggie, the owner of the antique shop on the corner of Chartres. He was Haitian, had lived in the voodoo community, and knew things I didn't. Understood. Reggie finished watching the video and pondered for a long time. He didn't say anything. He just pulled a wooden box covered with a talisman from under the counter and handed me a small bottle. Ashes of the demon cat, mixed with sea salt and black chicken blood. Cover the house with it if you want to survive the 3rd night. I took it with trembling hands and asked him, "And if I don't?" Reggie looked at me, his eyes dull and sad. "Then it won't just knock on the roof, Marcus. It will crawl inside and sit right on your chest forever." I left Mr. Reggie's shop with trembling hands, my heart pounding like it was about to jump out of my chest. The wooden box he handed me was small, heavy, and smelled like dried blood mixed with mold. I had no idea if the ritual would actually work, but after what I'd seen of the strange footprints, the roar in the night, the glowing yellow eyes on the camera, I had no choice. That night, I locked all the doors, pulled the curtains tight, and began to scatter the ashes as Mr. Reggie had instructed, in a counterclockwise circle, starting with the front door, then each window, corner of the wall, and finally on the ceiling just below the attic where the thing had appeared. As I poured the last drop of black chicken blood into the ash line, a low hiss sounded somewhere in the wall. It was quick, like metal scraping against rotten wood. I stood still. The air in the house changed, thickened. The smell was thick. Something was angry. 2:03 a.m. I sat huddled in my chair, gripping the baseball bat, eyes glued to the phone camera. Sweat dripped coldly even though I had turned off the air conditioner. 2:11 a.m. Footsteps began on the roof, this time no longer slow. It ran, growled, scratched like crazy. The roof tiles shook violently as if about to collapse. I turned on the camera to watch live. It was there, no longer a cat. A creature nearly 2 meters tall, hunched over, with long arms like a spider, skin covered in black fur, claws shining like blades. The face, half cat, half human, the mouth stretched to the ears, teeth as sharp as razor blades. And its eyes were still the same bright yellow eyes, burning like an oil lamp in the wind. I muttered the words Reggie had written, my mouth dry, my voice trembling. Baron Samedi, protect, keep my soul intact. The roar was like thunder. The ceiling was smashed, the wood was splintering. It was breaking down. I saw cracks appearing, dust falling like rain. I pulled out a match, lit a line of ash. The fire flared up not yellow, but a brilliant purple-blue fire of the soul, of death. A scream rang out from the roof. Not an animal, not a human. Something between the two. The fire flared up briefly, then went out. I collapsed to the floor, panting, sweating. The ceiling was silent. No more scratching, no more roaring. I turned on the light, looked around tremblingly. No one. There was only smoke and the stench of burnt flesh in the living room. I breathed a sigh of relief, thinking it was over. Until a whisper came from behind me. You burned it, Marcus, but you forgot one thing. I spun around. No one was there. The house was empty. But on the wall where the ashes had burned, a line of black letters appeared, as if written with a claw. Cats have 9 lives. I didn't sleep that night. Actually, I didn't dare sleep. I sat there until dawn, the first light streaming through the window, sweeping across the black ash still clinging to the floor, and the words scrawled in scorch marks. Cats have 9 lives. I sat there for hours, trying to make sense of it. I had done everything Reggie had told me to do. I had burned the ashes, I had recited the incantation. I had seen the flames and heard the creature's screams of terror, but what if it was only one of the 9 lives? What if I had only killed a part of it, and the other 8 were still alive, crawling around me, into my every breath? That afternoon, I returned to Reggie's shop, but it was closed. An older black man stood on the curb, looking at me strangely. "Looking for Reggie?" he asked. I nodded. He frowned and shook his head. "You're late. Reggie died last night." I froze. "What?" "Died right after closing the shop. Someone said he screamed, then collapsed, eyes wide open, mouth full of cat hair. I felt like someone had punched me in the chest. Cat hair? I asked him more, but the man only said that and walked away, leaving me standing frozen in front of the old shop, silent as if no one had ever lived there. That night I began to dream. In the dream, I saw myself standing in the middle of a white room, with no windows, no way out. 9 black cats were hanging upside down from the ceiling, their eyes glowing yellow, staring at me without blinking. One by one, they fell to the ground, distorted, one without a face, one with only teeth, one crawling on 4 arms instead of legs. And I stood in the middle, unable to move. They came closer, growling. Then I woke up in my own bedroom. My forehead was covered in sweat. But what was scarier was this. I was lying on the floor, not in bed, and on my hands, dried blood. I jumped up in a panic, checked the door, checked all the cameras. Nothing. Everything was quiet until I opened the bathroom door. On the mirror, clawing at the mist, were new words. 8 lives left. I left the house that night, taking with me all the notes, the remaining charms, and the camera footage I had saved. I began to seek out traditional voodoo practitioners, exorcists, priests, anyone who could understand what was haunting me. A woman named Mama Doritha in the Treme district finally agreed to see me. When I told her everything, she was silent for a long time. Then she said in a hoarse, smoky voice, "You didn't exorcise it. You only touched a part of it. It was the spirit of a cat spirit that had been sacrificed in a wrong ritual. Each of its lives was a separate soul, living in mirrors, in shadows, in blood. You can't kill it, not by the usual means." "Then what am I supposed to do?" I asked in despair. Mama Doritha looked at me with cold eyes. "You have to gather all 9 parts of its soul and then lock them in your body as a vessel. And then burn yourself." I couldn't breathe. "Oh, you want me dead? Either you die, or it will borrow your body to live forever, and it's already starting. Didn't you lose control last night? Next time, you'll wake up with someone's blood on your hands." I left Mama Doritha's house with shaking hands, my mind reeling. Immolation to destroy the demon. Her words echoed in my head like a deep, soul-piercing drum. No, I couldn't. I didn't want to die. I didn't want to be a vessel and turn to dust. But I also didn't want to be it. I had no memory of the next 2 nights. All I knew was that I fell asleep in the living room at 11 p.m. Then I woke up the next morning, in the middle of a deserted field, naked, blood on my hands, no sign of a person or a body, but giant cat paw prints stretched from where I lay to the edge of the woods. I returned home in a panic. Indoor camera, deleted. Call history. There was an unknown number calling at 2:44 a.m., not in my contacts. When I tried calling back, I heard only a buzzing sound and a whisper. "We're coming." I didn't sleep that night. I chained my hands to the iron pipes under the stove, turned on all the cameras, placed knives, salt, mirrors, and ashes around the house. I stayed awake all night. The clock struck 3 o'clock a.m., and I was still awake. 3:12 a.m. I was starting to get tired. 3:29 a.m. The light in the kitchen was flickering. 3:30 a.m. I fell asleep for exactly 3 minutes. When I woke up, the chains had been removed. How? I don't know. I was sitting in the middle of the living room. The front door was wide open, and in the middle of the room was the body of another black cat, torn in two. A dark stream of blood was spilling on the wooden floor, and on the opposite wall was a bloody drawing. A cat opened its mouth to swallow its own shadow. I went to a priest, but as soon as I mentioned the devil cat with 9 lives, he closed the church door. Not a word. I began to feel like I was no longer myself. I heard a scratching sound in my head. I dreamed of dark roofs, glowing yellow eyes, and I was on all fours, sniffing, growling, sneaking into people's windows like a predator in the dark. And then, people started dying. A boy next door was found in a warehouse with his heart ripped out, his eyes gouged out, and a claw mark scratched on his chest. A young girl who had gone missing was found 3 days later in a dumpster behind a bar I used to frequent, her body torn open, her intestines wrapped around her neck like some kind of sick joke. The press called him the Rooftop Ripper. The police knocked on my door. I said I didn't know. I was shaking. I was cooperative, but I knew. I was there. I could smell the blood. The taste was still in my mouth. Part of me was starting to like it. I turned to see Mama Dorotha one last time. I had no choice. "You have to help me," I said, my voice hoarse, my eyes hollow from sleepless nights. She wasn't smiling anymore. She led me into a back room filled with black candles, dried bones, cat hair, and strange statues. "Okay," she whispered. "There's another way, but you won't like it." I didn't care. "You have to enter its world, face the remaining 8, one soul at a time. If you survive, its soul will be trapped. But if you lose... Anyway, I won't go back, will I?" She nodded. "You will be the 9th, the last of its kind." I looked at her, then back at my hands. They were shaking, not with fear, with excitement. The devil in me was waking up. The ritual began at 3:00 a.m., the hour of deepest darkness, when the spirit world opened wide. Mama Dorotha prepared the room like a portal to hell. Circles of cat's blood, sacred ash, black cat's tail hair, and 9 antique mirrors arranged in the shape of a cat's eye surrounded me. In the middle of the room was a large cast-iron pot, boiling with a black liquid like oil, pungent and bubbling like boiled blood. "Concentrate," Mama whispered. "When I place my hand on your forehead, your soul will fall freely. Just follow its gaze. Don't look back, no matter what you hear." I nodded. All that was in my mind was the roar of the beast growing inside me. Then she touched my forehead. I fell, not the kind of falling I had in my dreams, but into a bottomless pit, cold as ice and dark as death. It felt like every cell in my body was dissolving, disintegrating into dust and blowing away into nothingness until I hit rock bottom. I opened my eyes. I was standing in a sunless city. The buildings were tall but jagged with claws. The sky was covered with dark clouds, and beneath my feet was a carpet woven from dried cat corpses. The first sound I heard was a high-pitched laugh echoing from all around. A cat stepped out of the darkness. No, not a cat. Something that had been a cat. It had a human face, no eyes, but a grin stretched from ear to ear, a mouth full of sharp teeth that was dripping with black blood. "Hello, Marcus." I backed away. It stepped forward. "I am the thing you killed first. I am the first. But don't worry. There are 8 brothers waiting for you." It roared and the world around it shook. A wave of darkness came and I saw 8 doors appear around me, each one a twisted shape, carved with different demon cats. I understood. Each door was a soul left, and I had to go through them all, face each one, each broken piece of its soul. If I survived, I could lock them all away. Unite. End it all. I walked to the first door. a door made of cat bones, writhing and groaning. I touched it. I was sucked inside. Inside, I stood in an abandoned house filled with cat hair, the stench of death, and the echoing sound of a child crying. A faceless child sat in the middle of the room, holding a dead cat. I stepped forward, and its head turned sharply. Instead of a face, there were deep eye sockets, and in them I saw myself screaming until my throat was torn. "Every soul is a fear," the voice said from somewhere. "This is regret. You abandoned your brother when he died in the locked room. You left him crying, then suffocated to death." I screamed, "No, it's not my fault!" But no one listened. The child crawled. As he crawled, he grew larger. His arms and legs grew longer, claws grew from his knees, his skin turned into pitch-black fur. I drew my knife. I had no choice. The fight began. I killed him. It took 3 scratches to his face, a broken arm, and a piece of glass embedded in his stomach. As the soul dissipated, I saw a piece of broken mirror floating, shining in my hand. I knew it was the first soul. I turned back to the 8 doors. There were only 7 left now. Another roar sounded, more fierce, more frantic. I didn't have time to breathe. The next door opened. I was sucked in again. I fell through the second door as if someone had thrown me down a deep well. I hit the cold stone floor, smelling of blood and rust. I stood up, struggling to breathe. All around me were dark corridors, as quiet as a morgue, the dim lights flickering on and off every second. This was an abandoned hospital. A shiver ran down my spine. I recognized this place. It was the hospital where my father died. 12 years ago, I walked slowly through the corridor, my heart pounding. The sound of my shoes echoed like a hammer in my memory. The door at the end of the corridor slowly opened. Inside was room 203. My father was lying there, but not breathing. His face was ashen, his eyes wide open, looking at me. A doctor stood next to the hospital bed, but not a human. It was a cat over 2 meters tall, wearing a white blouse, its mouth gaping from ear to ear, full of rat teeth. "You didn't come when he was dying," it whispered in my father's voice. "You were too busy to hide." I trembled. I didn't know he was going." "You didn't want to know. You were scared. You ran away." The doctor cat laughed. It grabbed the IV needle, plunged it straight into its neck, then pulled back, its body foaming, its fur falling out in clumps, transforming into a patchwork monster of organs, needles, and claws. I drew my knife and lunged at it. Blood splattered, bones cracked. I slashed, stabbed, struggled like a madman. It tore at my shoulder, clawed at my back until blood spurted. But I didn't stop. Finally, I thrust the knife through its throat. It fell, disintegrating into black ash. A second piece of mirror fell from the air, glittering like tears. I grabbed it. Back to the hall where the 6 doors were. The 3rd door opened, a classroom. I knew immediately that this was Class 11B. The desks and chairs were covered in dust. The lights were dim, and in the middle of the room was the girl I used to love, Olivia. I saw her sitting there, blood dripping from her wrists, her red eyes looking at me reproachfully. "Why didn't you help me?" her voice rang out. But it was my own voice, distorted. Olivia was the girl I used to date. She suffered from depression. I knew, but I ignored her. I thought it was just a phase, until she killed herself. She stood up. Her face melted. Her eyes, mouth, ears opened into black holes like a nest of wriggling maggots. Her voice hissed, "You killed me." I tried to scream, "No, I didn't kill anyone," but no one listened. A white cat with a human head and arms as long as wires whistled through the ceiling and pounced on me. I was dragged through every wall of the classroom, each one a memory. Me laughing with my friends, me avoiding Olivia, me turning off my phone when she texted me, "I'm not okay." Each slice of memory cut like a knife. I got up, took a piece of broken glass, and stabbed it into the monster's head. This time it screamed like hundreds of cats being burned alive, then exploded. A third piece of mirror appeared. I was gasping for breath. My whole body was torn, my shirt soaked in blood. There were 5 more doors. The 4th opened onto a cemetery. The 5th was the old house where I had witnessed my mother being abused. The 6th was the church where I had stolen holy objects. Each door was a memory I thought I had buried. But here they came back to life, transformed into the souls of demon cats, attacking me with claws, curses, and burning gazes. I killed each one. With each kill, I cut away a part of myself. Memories, beliefs, emotions. I began to hear the demon breathing in my chest. It was satisfied. It waited for the end. The 8th door did not open. It collapsed on its own. I did not need to enter, because I was the last soul. Its last life was me. I turned around. 8 pieces of mirror flew around me, forming a sharp, ghostly black cat mask. Then a familiar voice rang out. "Well done. You have overcome them all. Now, put me on and finish." The mask wanted me to wear it, to become the one who wielded the power, to master the demon. I was faced with a final choice. If I wear it, I will become the next demon cat. Immortal, brutal, free. If I refuse, I can break the cycle. But I will die. There is no going back. I hold the mask. It is as warm as living skin, and I feel all the guilt, pain, bloodlust, and revenge stirring in my hands. I held the black cat mask in my hands, my palms trembling with something I couldn't tell if it was fear or excitement. Around me, 8 mirrors spun, each one holding an image I couldn't forget. My father's death, Olivia's body, dark rooms, claws, blood, muffled screams from when I was 14. "Wear it," the cat's voice said, soft as honey, but underneath it was steel and blades. "No one understands you but me. No one forgives you but me." I looked down at the mask one last time. It was breathing. The black hairs on it glistened like the night, each fang around the nose stretched out as if eager to sink into my flesh. I wore it. It fit me. It wasn't like wearing something on its face that penetrated me. My face crumbled into dust, dissolving into the air, revealing what lay beneath. A black cat skin, smooth as silk, cold as metal. My whole body transformed. My eyes dilated, the irises stretched like snakes, the pupils turned yellow, able to see through walls, through thoughts. My fingernails retracted, then grew long, curved claws like sickles. I smelled the fear rising from the outside world. The smell of children crying in their dreams. The smell of old people dying without their children to visit. The smell of loneliness. And I was hungry. I opened my eyes and was back home. The ceiling was still mossy. The windows were still whistling. But it was night. And on my roof was me. I sat there, a tall, hunched cat figure, eyes like 2 blood moons. At my feet was the old Marcus, dry as paper, hollow as a shell. I stepped down onto the roof. No one saw me, except a child hiding in the alley, crying because his mother had beaten him. He saw me and I smiled. I walked toward him, light as mist. He shivered, his eyes wide, and then I walked past him, not killing him, just letting him see. Because the real nightmare isn't dying. It's knowing that something is watching you every night, and no one believes it. I wandered the city. New Orleans, Chicago, New York, San Francisco. Everywhere I went, a child disappeared. An attic made strange noises. A mother saw a cat as big as a man on the roof. Then the next morning, her child never woke up. They blamed it on stress, on sleep paralysis, on mental illness. No one expected Marcus Walker, the lonely suburban mechanic whose mysterious disappearance had become the new urban legend. People called me names. The Black Roof Demon, the cat with human hands, the Watcher above. But I know my name. I am the successor. I am the next incarnation of the centuries-old hunger. And if you hear a scratching sound on the roof, in the middle of the night, no matter what floor you are on, don't go out onto the balcony. Don't open the window, because I am there, and I am very, very hungry.